Warning, this content is for entertainment and educational purposes only. This video is brought to you by First Detachment Nutrition. Battle tested, expert formulated. Use discount code AB10 at checkout for 10% off. What's up, motherfuckers? Big Paul here today with another Anabolic Q&A. I got some questions lined up for you. We tried the live Q&A last week. I didn't get as many people turn out for it as I thought I would. Maybe I need to give it another run and try it again. I feel like I touched more people with this. But although it was fun talking to people in a live environment, let me know in the comment section below what you guys think about whether you like the live Q&A better or the pre-canned recorded one. I don't really care which way. Actually, it's probably less work for me to do the live one because I don't have to edit the video. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section, and we're going to dig into all this week's questions in just 1 second. All right, first question here from Josh. What are your thoughts on using SARMs and anabolic steroids together? All right, so let's think about what both of them do. They both selectively bind to the androgen receptor to elicit certain responses from your body. I'm not going to get into all the science of how it works, but if you think about it, and this is how I go about evaluating what substances I want to use, what compounds I want to use, what makes the most sense, I want to get the best bang for the buck with the least amount of side effects. So when I'm choosing a compound, I don't care whether it's a SARM or whether it's anabolic. I mean, anabolics are SARMs. They are steroidal SARMs. It's another thing that guys get themselves twisted up into knots and don't think about it. Primobolan, Trenbolone, Masteron, all of them selectively bind to the androgen receptor. So they are steroidal SARMs. So when we're picking our compound that we want to use, we want, so specifically, let's think about the off season. We are trying to elicit muscle protein synthesis. But primarily, that's what we're thinking about in the off season. We want to grow. We want to get bigger. Maybe you want to get stronger. I don't know. It really just depends on what your goal is. So I'm going to choose the compound that gives me the biggest bang for the buck. And I'm sorry, SARMs aren't that. And we have an unknown safety profile when it comes to SARMs too. And when you think about it, SARMs were the leftovers from pharmaceutical companies that they threw in the trash because they either didn't work, they didn't do what they were trying to accomplish in a therapeutical setting, or they just didn't have the safety profile that was necessary to be mass produced as a pharmaceutical grade selective androgen receptor modulator. So why would you use a SARM when we already have approved for human use steroidal SARMs that are effective, have a longer track record of use, and that we know that work? So I would rather rad whatever the fuck it is. Do I want to take a rad 150 or whatever? I don't even know much about SARMs, to be honest with you. I just don't even waste my time with them. So why would I use rad 150 to grow when I could use Primobolan? And I know Primobolan works well. I know Primobolan was approved for human use. And I know it and is used in human use, has a long track record of successful and safe use. Why would I use rad 150? I'm going to choose the best compound for the job to get the job done. And in this case, that would be a steroidal SARM. I don't know that SARMs do anything uniquely well that you can't accomplish with an already established, approved for human use steroidal SARM. All right, next one here from David Farr. He asks, what is your typical dose of cabergoline when taking DECA? Say 800 to 900 milligrams per week. Oh boy. I don't know why guys think that cabergoline is necessary when you're taking a nandrolone. I have looked at so many blood panels over my time coaching, and I have only maybe a small handful of times seen anybody with actual high prolactin levels. Are you lactating from your nipples? So if you're not lactating, you don't have high prolactin levels, not high enough to be treated. I almost never see guys with high prolactin levels on their blood panels. They just proactively treat something that doesn't need to be treated. It's unnecessary. And if you get to a point where you are at that level where maybe you're lactating, just back off the dose of what you're taking. Why would so guys take drugs to take other drugs when it's not necessary to take those drugs. Take a look at dopamine agonist withdrawal syndrome sometime. Look that up. Look that up. And tell me that you want to deal with that. That is one of the nasty side effects that goes along with cabergoline. Caber is nasty. It's a last resort. Don't treat a problem that's not there. There's no reason to treat a problem that doesn't even already exist. All right, next question is from Dark Matter 4594. Dark Matter asks, what ester of testosterone should I take to prevent bloating and water retention? This is another one that kind of drives me nuts. The ester doesn't change the fundamental properties of the compound. The only thing the ester changes is the speed at which that compound is released into your system. Testosterone is testosterone is testosterone is testosterone. It doesn't matter what the ester is. It's still testosterone. Now, I think what guys see is that when they take something like propionate, propionate has a reputation of causing less water retention than something like enanthate. I don't think it has anything to do with the ester. I think it has to do with the injection frequency. Propionate has a faster half-life, so you have to inject it more frequently. And more frequent injections seem to lower side effects like estrogen conversion and DHT conversion. And ultimately, when you're taking testosterone, the majority of the bloating that you get from testosterone is from estrogen being too high and potentially stimulation of the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system. So if we want to keep the bloating down, I would say more frequent injections, managing your estrogen levels appropriately if they need to be treated. Get your blood work done. See if you need an anti-estrogen, an aromatase inhibitor to deal with high estrogen. You might not. This is another case of where guys take drugs sometimes without needing to take drugs. If you have high estrogen, either back off the dose of the testosterone or use an aromatase inhibitor to bring that down, and that will reduce bloating. Taking a ARB or an ACE inhibitor, something like lisinopril or telmisartan, might help with the water retention from the stimulation of the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system as well, too. So that is another consideration to make as well. I think a lot of times the bloating that people get is from RAS stimulation and not so much estrogen. I see guys with low estrogen or reasonable estrogen that still have bloating, and a lot of times it's because they're not treating the stimulation of the RAS system with an ARB or an ACE inhibitor. That is another consideration to make. I don't know why guys don't look at that more often, and it has the added benefit of lowering your blood pressure. Micah Lee asks, is it possible to cycle year-round, to stay on cycle year-round without compromising your health? Possibly. I've seen guys do it. A lot of it depends on your compound choices, your doses, how you eat, whether or not you're doing cardio or not, whether or not you're managing your blood pressure, your unique genetic response to the compounds. It is possible to stay on year round. I've done it before. I've seen other guys do it. If you stick to things like testosterone, primobolan, run reasonable doses of them, use secondary pathways such as growth hormone, maybe a little bit of insulin, maybe an insulin sensitizer like berberine, treating your blood pressure with an ARB or an ACE inhibitor. Things like that, keeping your diet clean, doing cardio. Diet plays a huge role in it. A lot of times when I see guys that have shit blood work, especially when it comes to their lipids, lipids are already going to be skewed when you take AASs. So a lot of that can be controlled with your diet and supplementation of using things like citrus bergamot, niacin, fish oil can help too. So I think if you keep your doses reasonable, you make smart compound choices, you're stimulating multiple growth pathways, managing things like your blood pressure, your lipids. Sure, you can stay on year round with relatively low negative effect. Now, a lot of it depends on your behaviors, how you behave as far as taking care of your health with your diet. If you're out drinking and smoking and partying and acting like an asshole and eating cheeseburgers and donuts all the time, then no, you probably are not going to be able to get away with it. Peruco2194 asked me if I have ever used testosterone undecanoates. This is another one again. Testosterone is testosterone despite what the ester is. Just pick one ester and stick with it. When we're taking anabolics, we are likely going to be on testosterone year round. That is the base of our foundation for performance enhancement. So when you're running testosterone year round, just pick an ester that works for you, that you like, stick with it. It doesn't really matter. Testosterone is testosterone is testosterone. I have found that more frequent injections do lower side effects such as from DHT conversion and estrogen conversion. So injecting daily, which is what I like to do, seems to lower those. But just pick an ester that works for you. Stick with it. Run it year round. If you're going to stay on cycle, if we're going to blast and cruise, it doesn't really matter. I like testosterone and anthate. That's what I've always run. Why do I like testosterone and anthate? I don't know. That's usually what the UGL has. So that's what I run. If you go to a TRT clinic, they're going to prescribe you testosterone cypionate. Okay, run testosterone cypionate year round. Testosterone is testosterone is testosterone. The ester does not change the fundamental attributes of the compound. All right, Nick 7247 asked me, what are your thoughts on a younger guy blasting hard to get to a certain size, say an open level bodybuilder at the pro level, and using maintenance doses after that to refine their physique over time, compared to slowly increasing their doses per cycle? I know slowly increasing is safer, but if you're younger and you have health, why not just blast and get there as fast as possible? All right, I mean, I get what you're saying. So here's the thing. We have to look at the limiting factors that we have here. There's only so much muscle protein synthesis that you can stimulate in a given period of time. I don't think, so let's say you just came out of the gate, first cycle, and ran 2 grams. How much more are you going to gain than you would have just running 250 milligrams or 500 milligrams of testosterone? Probably not much. I've seen guys do it all the time. I've seen guys that are newbies on grams of gear, and they don't even look like they lift weights. And you can't shortcut it. There's only so much muscle you can gain in a year. I have the example up. I had a video I did about Nick Walker and his progress, and he had this just kind of slow slog to getting to be where he's at now. It was basically 100 pounds of stage weight over a 10-year period of time. Now, given that is not a flat line, it's sort of a, probably the first year he may have gained 20 pounds, and then he probably gained 15, and then he probably gained 10, and then he probably gained 8, and he probably gained 5. That's how it went. And the ironic part is as you get bigger, you need more doses to continue to grow. So he probably had to use a lot more to gain that extra 5 that he did from this year to last year, or whatever it was he gained. I'm just using a hypothetical situation, than he did when he was first starting out and gaining that 25 pounds. So my approach is save the gas for when you need it. There's going to come a point in time that you need it. And then when you get to a certain size, it doesn't take much to maintain. It really doesn't. I can pretty easily maintain 275 pounds at this point on 250 milligrams of test and a couple units of GH. People won't believe it, But that's, I'm not discounting that you have to blast to put on size. And there are times that you have to run more. You have to be more aggressive. There are certain people that are hard gainers. And there's certain times that you have to press down the gas pedal. But do it, I think the smarter way is to do it incrementally. And there's no way to shortcut it. The guys that try to shortcut it don't last. And bodybuilding is a game of inches. It is, you have to play the long game with bodybuilding. That's the part that I like to preach to young guys. What if you go out and you mash the gas pedal down and you get there in 3 years, and then you get to the pro level and you're completely fried. You're completely torched. You're not going to make any money. The whole point to get to being a pro is to leverage that into making money. I would think, at least for me, unless you just want to be a pro for the sake of having IFBB Pro next to your name on Instagram. But who gives a fuck about that? Really, the point of being a pro is to leveraging it into making a living out of it. And if you want to make a living out of it, you're going to have to sustain it over a period of time. And I've never seen anybody, even the people that look like an overnight success, the people that get their pro card in 2 or 3 shows, they've been training for 5-10 years minimum. They just haven't competed. You haven't seen all the work that goes into it. It looks like they maybe shortcutted things, but they didn't really shortcut. They just didn't compete until they were at a certain level. But I would say on average, and pros that I have talked to and guys that I have worked with, it takes around 10 years of hard training, 5 to 10 years minimum. I'd say 5 is the absolute minimum, but it's more like 10 years of hard training, focused nutrition, probably PED use to make it to that pro level size and to be able to sustain yourself at the pro level. And like I said, if you come out of the gate and you nuke yourself, you're going to burn yourself out and you're not going to be able to sustain that once you get there. If you want to have 5-10 year career as a pro, you're going to have to leave some gas in the tank. Look at a guy like Dexter Jackson or Kamal. I'm sure these guys have been more intelligent with their training, with their health, with their PED use. They probably have been moderate. I would imagine there have been times where they've mashed the gas pedal down, but those are infrequent. It's a long game. Play the long game to stay in bodybuilding. James Williams asked me, he goes, I know your stance on DBOL and you hate it, but nothing gives me strength gains or aids in my bulks like DBOL does. So here's my take on DBOL. DBOL works really well for some people. There are a group of people that DBOL works really well for. That is undeniable. I've seen some people absolutely blow up on DBOL. But I've also seen DBOL be the single worst steroid for side effects. In my opinion, I've seen more people come to me that have serious problems from DBOL. Gyno, bloating, high blood pressure, cramps so bad you can't lift from the bloating. My take I've mentioned this multiple times, does DBOL do something uniquely well that we can't accomplish with a safer, less side effect laden compound like primobolan or nandrolone or even equipoise or something else? I think there are better options and safer options and ones that'll get you to the finish line just as well as DBOL does. Look, if DBOL works for you, just run it. I don't really care. It's a personal choice. It's whatever works for you. I used to run a lot of DBOL when I was younger, and all it did for me is made me grow titties and put my blood pressure through the roof. That's the only thing I ever got out of DBOL, and get terrible calf cramps to the point where I couldn't even walk up the stairs. So I got to the point is like, why in the heck am I bothering with this stuff if it makes me feel so crappy that I can't even work out? There's no point. Anyway, if you love DBOL, rock on, dude. All right, last one here is from Sweaty. He asked me, how do you keep your liver enzymes in a decent place while on cycle? Also cholesterol, kidney, and blood counts. Well, there is a certain amount of sacrifice that you have to make. There is a cost to doing business, and the harsher the compounds are that you run, and the higher the doses that you run, and the more slack you are with your diet and cardio, the worse your blood panels are going to be skewed. Compound choice plays into that as well. I've seen really the single thing that seems to skew people's blood panels worse than anything else that I have run into is running orals. Running orals are going to skew your blood panels. You're going to have high liver enzymes. You are going to skew your lipids. So the biggest thing I think you could do is just limit the use of toxic compounds. Limit the use, run an effective dose. You don't need to go crazy with your dose. Hell, you could probably push primobolan way higher than you could ever run something like Anadrol and not have the same skewing of blood panels that you would running Anadrol. So if you limit your toxic drug load, then your blood panels are going to be better. Diet plays a huge role in it too. I've seen people recreational drug use, drinking alcohol. These are all things that you need to avoid. There are supplements that help. NAC seems to be the most effective thing I've ever seen for lowering liver enzymes. Almost everybody I see that takes NAC, they have a dramatic lowering of their liver enzymes. Lipids, pretty much everybody that runs PEDs has suppressed HDL. And it's just a degree of how suppressed their HDL is. Your LDL, you have some control over. LDL is largely related to genetics and dietary choices and cardiovascular exercise. So if you do cardio, if you keep a clean, lower fat diet, lower in saturated fats, and you keep your insulin sensitivity in check, your lipids should stay in line. People that have high triglycerides usually have impaired glucose metabolism. It's just what I've seen. So maintaining and monitoring your insulin sensitivity is also important. The LDL, like I said, is mainly related to diet. It's people that eat like shit that have high LDLs, high saturated fats. So keep your saturated fats low. There are some things that can help out modestly. Citrus bergamot, niacin, fish oil can help out a little bit. You might even need to be on a prescription med. I have been on and off statins myself. I take ezetimibe for my LDL. That seems to keep my LDL more in line. And if you keep the ratio of LDL to HDL in proper alignment, you can run your HDL a little bit lower and keep yourself relatively safe. But the single biggest thing you can do for HDL is just stay off the orals. All right, guys, that's all I got for you today. Please leave your comments in the comment section below. I'll do my best to answer all the comments down below. And I appreciate each and every one of you. Rock on. For coaching or consultations, head over to www.anabolicbodybuilding.com to book your spot today. I can help you with optimizing hormones, fat loss, muscle gain, physique, athletic performance, nutrition, and health. For more information, shoot me an email at bigp3rd@gmail.com.